I just had a friend reach out to me and tell me that she had the most beautiful plant medicine ceremony, but she doesn't know exactly how to go through the integration process or even what that should look like. So I thought that I would just go live and explain what that word even means. So often we learn about words like discipline, consistency, integration, nervous system regulation, somatics, right? All of these words that we're just kind of like expected to know. And when I teach, I often will talk and use these words and look around the room and I see that other people are like, but I can tell that no one's actually broken down what this word actually means. So that's what we're going to do here today, just so that we can all feel a little bit supported, whether you are in a journey of plant medicine exploration or doing anything like that. Oh yay, we got some hate comments already. Thank you so much. I love that. You know you're doing something right if you're getting hate, right? So let's, oh, I don't know how I just got like a tattoo on my face. What is that? That's so strange. Anyways, let's hop right into integration and what that really means. So one of the ways that you can kind of think about integration, I used to be a hair extension specialist because I used to get all different types of hair extensions. And if you've ever gotten hair extensions, you know that they put super, super long hair into your hair, and then the rest of your hair like just sits on top like this, and you have to blend it in, and the blending takes a little bit of time. So when it comes to integration, we're not just talking about hair, we're not just talking about something that is 3D, we're talking about integrating spiritual awareness and spiritual growth. So you can think of this like traveling, for example. Let's say that you typically live here in Southern California, where I live, and you go to Egypt and you see the giant Great Pyramids that are so ancient and so amazing. And so you come back from your trip and there's no pyramids over here. And so you go to your Safeway or your Whole Foods or wherever you go and you're like, ooh, this is not the pyramids situation. And you are saying that to every single person that you meet. I was just in Egypt a week ago and this is nothing like the pyramids, right? That's an example of not being able to integrate the practices that we've had, right? It would be so much more beneficial to be able to go to these incredible places, to see how different they are from our home, and to be able to come back to our home and bring some of the energy of that place with us without necessarily going around and pointing out that this is different or this is not right or something like that, right? So integration allows us to have beautiful adventures, to go out into the world or into our own subconscious mind and our own consciousness, and to learn universal truths, to learn about ourselves. And once we learn about ourselves, we can actually bring these lessons into our everyday life. So, excuse me. So often people think that integration has to be like a really, really big deal. There has to be exercises that you do. There has to be specific things. And of course, I am an integration coach, so there are practices, there are exercises that can help you through this process. But ultimately, when you are integrating absolutely anything, the changes that you're going to be experiencing and making in your life are actually going to be a lot smaller than you think. The feelings are really big, but the changes are really, really small. So during most of my like huge spiritual awakenings, I felt so embarrassed so often because I would have this huge adventure and this huge awakening, and I felt like I just could not go back to being like the old version of myself. I did not know how I was going to uphold my everyday commitments or anything like that. And so what I want you to know is that even if you feel like you're going through a huge awakening experience or you're going through a huge evolution, it isn't actually as big as it feels. In about like 2 years ago, I sold every single thing that I owned and I completely moved off grid. And I cannot tell you, like, no one noticed. Literally, no one noticed. And so when you have this huge spiritual awakening or an awakening of any sort, like any sort of spiritual maturity, it might seem like you're making the most pivotal changes of your life, and you are making those changes. That move was huge for me. And I don't really care that other people didn't notice or things like that, because for myself, that's who I made the move for, right? But so often in our spiritual journey, we can get really confused about that integration process, whether or not we should make the move. And we often get really scared of doing something that big and that drastic because you're so scared of how people are going to treat you differently and things like that. I'm just going to answer a few questions here as well, because we have a really, really good question. Thank you so much, Josh. What do you consider a spiritual awakening? So a spiritual awakening is when you become aware, that is the root of the word awake, is awareness of your own spirit. And a spiritual awakening is a process that we all go through throughout life. Some of us go through this process a little bit more in depth than other people. Some of us gain a lot more awareness about our spirit, the spiritual world. We might have spiritual gifts that are activated through this process, but a lot of people tend to associate the word spiritual awakening with like a kind of like looking down on term, like awakened people are better than unawakened people. And I genuinely believe that consciousness is a fluid thing. You can be super conscious and awakened in one area while also simultaneously being very unawakened and unconscious in another area. So I don't think that awakening happens like across the board. I think that we all can kind of awaken to different things at different times. I had a lot of my spiritual awakenings at a really, really young age, and I wasn't awakened to other things at that age that other people were awakened to. So for a lot of spiritually awakened people, we need emotional intelligence. It just helps us navigate the world so much better. And when you notice someone who hasn't gone and gotten this emotional intelligence but has the awakening part of it, you can kind of butt heads with that person, have some conflict with that person a little bit. You might notice that those interactions might not make you feel so good. I was talking to someone recently and they were like, oh, I learned this in 5th grade. Like, what did you learn in 5th grade? And those types of statements are actually considered to be violent statements. If you want to learn more about consensual communication and emotional intelligence and how to not have conflicts with people in every part of your spiritual awakening, I strongly recommend the book Nonviolent Communication. It absolutely changed my life, and it helps you interact with people of all consciousness levels, including yourself, because we also operate at all consciousness levels too, right? I might be super mature and very spiritually awakened when it comes to things like mindfulness practices, awakening, conscious relationships, or things like that, but maybe I'm not so awakened or spiritually mature when it comes to taking care of my animals. Like maybe I consistently forget to feed them every day or struggle with time or something like that. So I think it's really important to recognize that awakening it's not like all of you awakens all at once. It's this slow and gradual and beautiful process of really deeply remembering who you are. And the goal of a spiritual awakening process is to be able to see yourself, which is not your human self, to be able to see your essence of yourself, the part of you that has been you throughout your whole entire life, the part of you that loves to giggle and laugh like no one is watching or anything like that, and to dance and to just be your full expression of your goofy self. But that is a part of ourselves that we've hidden and we've made small. So as we adventure into our conscious exploration, as we adventure with plant medicines and things like that, we can start to remember who we really are. And this feeling can be like a feeling of coming home for the first time or coming back to yourself. And for some people, when you experience feeling your soul or feeling yourself in a way that you never have before. Some experience an orgasmic meditation when they have this experience. So your body literally goes into a full convulsion of just extreme levels of bliss and pleasure and joy and happiness. I used to experience such incredible panic attacks. And so imagine like the opposite of a panic attack. That is what a lot of people are referring to when they talk about orgasmic meditation. And yeah, that term, that like orgasmic meditation, spiritual awakening, some people talk about it in terms of a Kundalini awakening. So there's lots of different ways that we can talk about this, but we're all really talking about the same thing, which is shedding the worldly views and versions of yourself and really being able to see the version of you that you were created and destined to be. So it really is such a beautiful journey and such a beautiful gift. And I just really appreciate being on this journey with you, being able to share my spiritual insights and lessons, and to also hear from you, because that is what's so cool about being in a spiritual awakening. And I think so many people often will tell me like, oh, do you think you're better than other people or stuff like that. There's always this like hierarchy in talking about spirituality on the internet or openly or being in a spiritual awakening, but I'll just state my values. So I believe that all of us have a unique embodiment of divinity, and by exploring our conscious reality, by having adventures, by being ourselves, and by being the happiest and healthiest version of us, we all have so much to teach each other. We all can share our experiences about aliens and UFOs and like learn about that, or the government, or health, or herbs, or any topic. When we can come together and actually collaborate instead of kind of like fight each other, as we often see in the world, that is where we can actually evolve society, actually forward and elevate the collective consciousness. And it comes down to your ability to not only explore yourself, but also to integrate all of those parts of you and to be able to share that version of you, the real version of you, with the world, because it gives everyone permission and license to do the same. I saw a question here. Let me look up the answer real quick just so that we have the answers. I don't know everything, and I need to look up answers for things a lot of the time. The question was, is the book that I recommended by Marshall B. Rosenberg and Deepak Chopra? And the answer is yes, it is. Thank you for asking that and encouraging me to go and look up that book title and author, because it's been a while since I've actually held that book in my hands. I'm more of an audiobook kind of person personally, but that is a really, really good book. So whether you are listening to an audiobook, listening to this video here with me right now, no matter what adventure you're on in this moment or in this day, you can integrate that and allow it to help you in the long run. And some of the ways that you can do this is with a daily journal practice. At the end of every single day, I like to ask myself, what did you do well today? What are the things that you can do better? And people often tell me that like I experience a lot of growth, a lot of changes. I'm really, really good at manifestation and things like that. And it's because I always use these integration methods. I was integrating for 10 years before I ever touched a plant medicine. So that meant that after I would go on a date with someone new, I would go home and I would integrate, how did this experience change me? What did I learn about the world? What did I learn about the collective consciousness? What did I learn about the psyche or the soul or whatever it is? It doesn't even have to be about my romantic interest in this person. And I think that so few people go through life genuinely integrating every single experience that they have. And when I share this practice of actually being your own guide and your own healer and your own helper, we are able to see a lot more progress in our life. That's where people are actually able to like meet their dream partner, get their dream job, all of this stuff. Because instead of just going through life and being like, okay, that sucked, or that was good, or whatever it was, you actually sit down with yourself and you call a team meeting between me, myself, and I, or your lower self and your higher self, and you get grounded. And so often people talk about how to get grounded in a spiritual awakening, and when you're going on all these adventures and exploring your consciousness, how can you feel grounded? This is what it is to feel grounded. It's being able to integrate the journeys that you have, being able to meet with all of the versions of yourself and make sure that all of them are being heard, all of them get a vote in the decision that you're making, and things like that. So I know that these are like super, super high level topics, but they're so, so valuable to even just start to digest. Just let these topics marinate for you. Whatever you were able to receive is amazing. Whatever you weren't is also amazing. Just trust that your brain and your body is always naturally discerning for you. So if there was something that you couldn't understand here, or something that triggered you or felt like it wasn't for you, it already isn't, which is so amazing. And this is how we can get even better at our integration process that's always happening every single second of the day. So thank you so much for letting me share with you some of these really, really amazing and high level quantum energetics topics that can really deeply support us. And excuse me, I don't know why I'm like hiccuping all of a sudden. I guess that means it's the end of our time to talk about this. So thank you so much for taking this time. I really, really appreciate you. And I pray for your strength and your light and your peace if you are on a spiritual awakening or in any sort of spiritual journey of any kind. Trust that you are always meant to be exactly where you are, otherwise you wouldn't be there. And I really acknowledge you for all of the work that you've put in up until this point, because I know that it hasn't been easy. So thank you, and I will see you guys next time. Bye everyone.